My name is Rohit. I study in the Shri Ram School, Moulsari, and I got a 35 in my ACTs, which I wrote in July, and I'm in the 11th grade. I wasn't that confident when I wrote my diagnostic because I only got a 30. However, where I messed up the most was English, so I wasn't that confident in English, and that's what stressed me most about the prep. But once I started to learn the rules and I figured out and I started doing more questions, that stress was relieved and turned into confidence. So as I was nearing my ACT exam date, I got more and more confident and my scores got better and better. And I wanted a 35 or a 36 and I got a 35, so I was pretty happy with that. Now, one section I had particular trouble with was reading because I don't like reading books in general. So one way I overcame that was I started reading The Economist, and why it was perfect was because the articles were short and they were like similar in length to the passages in reading. So it prepared me well for reading, and also I learned a few tricks from Anam ma'am. And once I learned that, reading became a lot simpler. I learned how to manage my time in reading, and eventually that was my 36 in my breakdown. What was helpful the most was the online test which I did at Tutela, and the reason why that was helpful is because I was preparing on paper before, but when you write a test on a computer and when you do it online, there's a lot of difference because you don't have the scratch paper which you do on the paper, and you can't highlight passages in reading or in science, and therefore you have to kind of get over that fact, and that's what made it hard for me to change from paper to online. But once I took enough tests, it became easier for me. And for any tips for other test takers, I'd say just keep calm, don't stress yourself, because I know people who've been preparing for around 6 to 7 months for this test. I prepared for I think two months, a little over 2 months, and if you don't stress yourself and you kind of you understand how the questions work and you understand the format of the questions, you'll end up doing well without having to strain yourself at the end and without pressuring yourself. Like for example, I went for a vacation during the summer, which I could only do because of the fact that I had done so many questions that I got used to how the format was, and I could kind of more or less predict what kind of questions would come in the papers. And one more thing to focus on would be, especially for reading, if that's what someone is struggling with the most, is to just read as much as you can outside, because that is honestly what will help you, because the questions are all based from the passage. So if you learn how to read quickly and absorb memory at a faster rate, which you would only get from practice, then that would be ideal to getting a good score. And for maths, I'd say revise all your concepts and get familiar with your graphics calculator, because that's one of the most, that literally solves almost all your questions if you know how to utilize it well. So I knew how to use it because we had to use it in school, but if you're in ICSE or another curriculum where you don't use calculators, get affiliated with how the calculator works, because it has a lot of like tricks, and it has a lot of functions which you wouldn't know unless you've done enough questions with it. And you don't want to be taking the test and figuring out new things in your calculator, because that wastes time, and in the ACT you don't have the luxury of time, especially in maths, because you have 60 questions and only 60 minutes to solve it. And for English, I'd say just learn the rules of the language for the first section, and you have to get fast enough because there's 75 questions and only 45 minutes of time, so you have to get fast enough. And I think by the end of it, me and everyone else who was writing it with me was finishing the 75 questions around 30-35 minutes. So try and make sure you're comfortable, because that leaves you time with revision also. And revision, I think, is the most important thing on the test day, because you will be nervous, and especially for me, because I get nervous on the test day, as in I'm confident throughout, but on the test day I get nervous, and I think that's what prevented me from a 36, because I didn't revise in maths, and that costed me, and I got a 35 because of that, and my score became a 35.25 instead of a 35.5, which is rounds up to 36. So just make sure you get enough sleep and you're well prepared for the test. Arrive at the center early, just so that there's no confusion. For example, I had a lot of my friends arrive late, and that built up a lot of stress for them, and it made sure that they couldn't do the test properly because their mind was filled in with other things. And also get used to sitting for 3 hours straight, because that is what will be most exhausting, because the sections themselves are fairly easy. It's when you put them all a 3-hour stretch and you have science, which is science passages after the English passages, that is when it gets tough. So try and get used to staring at a computer screen for 3 hours at a time, and that only comes with practice. And again, that's why I think the online tests helped a lot more than just paper, because you have to get used to the strain on your eyes for like more than 3 hours if you're giving the essay also. So I'd say that's about it. Best of luck for your test.